Hello creative friends, this is Joy coming to you with another art journal page. This journal page actually incorporates several pages. So I have this Dilution journal block that I use to make the lines on a couple of pages and cut them out so that they would be staggered as far as the length of the page. And that's what I'm doing here. I'm using the journal block and kind of just eyeballing the distance between the pages to make them all even or right about evenly spaced, and then cutting it out just so that I have several pages that are stacked and cut out. After I got done doing this, and there I'm just erasing the pencil lines. After I got done doing this, I realized I probably shouldn't have done so many pages, but 4 would have been fine, but I ended up with 5, but that's okay. It turned out, pretty good anyway. In the end, I was pleased with the way this turned out. And then, of course, the parts that I cut off, I can use and tape into another area of the journal and use later. So I grabbed all of my stencils, or a good majority of stencils, a bunch of my acrylic paints, and just kind of went through putting some color and some pattern on these pages, and then giving them a quick blast just to make sure they're dry so that I could quickly move on to the next page. And this acrylic paint, it did dry fairly quickly, so it wasn't too big of a deal. And as you see here, this is where I'm getting towards the end of adding some color and pattern on these pages. And I wasn't when I started this, well, this is kind of like the cutting of the pages I saw online on a video where it was advertising the Ranger journaling block, and which I thought was a cool idea. But then the other idea for this page came from Balzer Design, where you have several pages with faces of an image on each page, and as you flip through the pages, the image kind of the face of the image kind of changes. And then of course she does a lot of patterns with faces with patterns on them. So that's kind of like it's a combination of several things that I saw that I liked. So I don't know if you could see, but I did kind of use a pencil to kind of trace out the faces on these pages, and then here I'm going through with a China marker and going over the pencil lines that I drew of the faces on these pages, and just making the outline of the faces more permanent with the China marker. So then I grab white because the whites of the eyes, and then of course the eyes themselves, I figured that whatever color I make them would stand out better. And the lips, if I painted some white on top first, and that way when I go over it like I'm doing here on the lips with the pink, then it'll stand out better. And then of course I use a little bit of the pink on the cheeks, and then the blue on the eyes. I also take a pretty dry brush with a little bit of black to try to do some shadowing on the face. And I do the same technique on all of the faces on all of the pages that I created, and watered down white again to do some highlighting on the face. So I just kind of go back and forth until I'm happy with this face on this particular page. And then the black here around the eyes and for the pupil. So I really like the journal pages and paintings and drawings and stuff that I see Balder Design do, and I think it's interesting and it's neat. And so yeah, I've always wanted to kind of do a face with pattern and stuff like this, and I've seen recently where several pages would be done, and as you flip the pages, the face changes. So I thought that was kind of neat. So I thought, yeah, this would be a good time to try to do it, my style. And then here I'm using Posca pens just to do more of the finer details, like the eyelashes and the whites in the eyes. And then just trying to touch that up a little bit. And here I use the red for the lips on this particular face. And then go through the same process of adding the watered down white for highlights and the whites for the eyes. And then the black, dry brush black for the shadows. And I'm not sure at this point, I'm thinking about, what am I going to do when I'm done with these faces? Am I going to just kind of leave them like this on the page, on the pages, or add more detail to the faces? I wasn't sure, but at this point, I mainly was just focusing on, getting these faces painted to where, I was like happy with at least the way that they turned out, and I was happy with the way they turned out in the end. I mean, I would have liked them to be a little bit more, I don't know how you say, defined, or maybe a little bit more kind of realistic or whatnot, but I was happy with them all in all. I mean, they did turn out not as well as I had hoped, but good enough, I suppose, for what I was trying to accomplish. And I would have, I guess I need to practice more. I'm not really that big or that good at drawing faces and, that kind of thing. Most of my art in the past has been on drawing animals. I mean, that's kind of like my first love is drawing animals. And I wanted to, I know that a lot of our journal pages incorporate faces, and that's what I like to do as well, to try to incorporate faces in my journal pages. But I also want to try to incorporate animals as well into my journal pages, which I attempt to do that, but I like to do more of that, because really that's where my passion and most of my artistic abilities come from, is doing art with animals. But I do enjoy doing the faces as well. I just need to do some more practicing of drawing faces and shadowing and highlighting and all of that, I suppose, to get a little better at it. But like I said, all in all, I was happy with this journal page and how it turned out, and I thought it was pretty interesting. I sped this video up to quite a bit to try to get it cut down so it's not quite so long, but it still ended up longer than I would like. I could have, I guess, cut a lot of the this part out where I was working on the faces, because it's pretty much kind of repetitive, going back and forth, doing the same thing on each one. But I imagine that some people might want to see that part of it, because I like to watch how people do different painting of faces and people and stuff online. So this part, I guess, if people don't want to see it or really, want to spend the time watching me go through painting these faces, or they're, pretty experienced at doing that anyway, can kind of skip through this part of it. But I did end up, after painting the faces, I did decide, it's like they all looked so similar, which, I guess I shouldn't have been too awfully surprised that they all looked so similar because I painted them all. I kind of had, would have liked them to, I don't know, I guess be a little more kind of different. So I thought, well, a lot of times, when you think about it, the hair, and the style of the hair can definitely make a big difference in the appearance. And so I did decide that because at first I was like, do I want to put hair on these or not hair? Or, how far am I going to go with this? And I did decide to go through and put hair on these faces and then try to do different hairstyles on each face to make them, distinct from each other and to make them different, so that they did, at least have different appearances and, you know, kind of personalities, I guess you could say. Because the other thing too is on these faces, after I got done, I was like, they really don't, they're kind of expressionless, there's not like any kind of, I could have done different expressions on their faces, like maybe had one smiling and, I don't know, I could have done something a little different there as well. So here I decided that to make the face stand out more, I would do the watered down white around each of the faces and try to, minimize the background a little bit to try to push that, into the background somewhat. So that's what I'm doing here. Again, I'm still debating on what to do, and deciding that yes, I'm going to put hair on these faces. And so here is where I was doing the hair, and I'm using like a burgundy and a yellow just to try to kind of do some kind of a hairstyle on this particular face. And I'm thinking about, the other faces, like, okay, what are different hairstyles that I can do to where, at least they all are different and they're not all just the same. And so that's the other thing I'm thinking about here too is, how am I going to make the hairstyle on the other faces different from this one. And so I made this one, as you can see here, where she's got kind of like a little bun, or a rose or something, and her hair is kind of up. And I did realize then I have to put ears on her, and then I decided I wanted to have her wear these, maybe some cute little earrings or something. So that's what I'm doing here is, putting little earrings on her. And then, of course, I'm going to have to somehow incorporate that, part of the face into the next. So that's where you see me here on the second page. And I'm thinking about, okay, I'll do kind of like I don't know, a short little bob. And I try to get it to blend in with the hair on the first page. And then, of course, give that a quick dry. And then the third face, again, I have to somehow incorporate the hair so that it carries over onto this page. And I decided as with each progressive page, I would just make the hair longer and longer. So that's what I decided to do on these pages. And one of them, I think it's probably the next one, I tried to do like kind of a little bit of a hairstyle to it as well, just to make it different. So yeah, that's what I'm doing with the hair, just trying to go through and doing some lights and some darks, with some burgundy and some yellow and stuff and a little bit of darker colors. And then I realized after I did a couple of these, it needs some shadowing around the hairline on these faces. That it just didn't look quite right. And so that's where I'm going back through and doing the shadowing around the hairline on these the first three faces here I did, and then I'm continuing with the other faces. But yeah, I like the way this turned out. This was a lot of fun to do. Took some time to do, and I worked on it over a couple of weekends, but I was pretty pleased, with how it turned out. And I thought it turned out cute. And I could have gone, I mean, like I said, worked on this over like 2 weekends, and I was like thinking, I could continue to work on these and keep adding more and more detail to these pages, which I do add more detail other than the faces to these pages, but I did end up getting to a point where I was like, that I felt I could continue to keep going, and decided, that you get to a point where it's like, okay, you got to decide when you're done. So I finally did get to a point where I decided these pages were done, and finish these off. This page here, or this particular face, I really thought was really cute, and it kind of looks like, of all the faces that I painted, it looks like the youngest of the faces. And so here I went through my stash and I found some quotes that I wanted to add to these pages, and because I was wanting to add like a word to each page, and I thought it would be neat, since I've got so many quotes, to go through and find quotes to add to these pages as well. So that's what I'm doing here. Going through with a little collage page, just adding some quotes that I found that I thought were appropriate for each of the pages. And I did, as you can see here too, I did end up adding necks, because I didn't have a neck on any of them, and then I thought, they looks like their face is just kind of floating in midair here, and maybe I should add a neck. So I did end up adding a neck onto these faces so that they had, a neck. But again, I could have like added, a necklace, or, done different things to the faces, but yeah, I didn't go in, I didn't do too much more to them than what you're seeing here. And I'm putting a paintbrush in between, because really didn't feel like waiting for each one to dry, so I kind of just went through and got them all the quotes down I wanted to put on here, and then just put a paintbrush in between each page so that they could dry. So here I wanted, as when the pages are all open, I wanted to see where it said I am, so that's why I opened them up and then decided to write it down in the bottom corner. And then again on each page I wanted to put like a word. So on this page I put I am beautiful, because I thought she was really pretty with the little rose, or whatever you want to call that, in her hair. And then smart is what I put on this one, with her little shorter haircut. She looks like she's smart. And this one, successful, is the word that I thought would go on to that one. This one, happy, she just looks happy. And then the last one I put creative, because I thought, well, I am creative, and so I thought that was appropriate for this last page to have creative on the page. And again, at this point, I'm thinking, okay, am I done? Do I want to continue to do more, to these faces and these pages? And I did decide that when they're open, like you see here, that the edges needed like something a little more, I guess, decorative. So I do decide to go over the edges and to add more to the edges of these pages, just to add a little bit more decoration and, as you see here, to outline some of the quotes. And so I'm just using my Posca pens and giving it a quick blast to make sure that the Posca pens are dry before I go on to the next page, but they do dry fairly quickly. So there you can see I had it open so I could trace along where the page was at, and then on this one I just added circles, and then I went back through in between and colored it in, to fill in so that particular page has the circles on it, and then with the blue Posca pen, and then outlining the quote. And I do kind of skip through this last part rather quickly. So I trace again with the orange on the next page so that I have an area that I wanted to put some kind of a pattern on. And that's what I'm doing here, is going through and adding a pattern to the edge of this particular page. And I decided, since I did circles the first time, I would do triangles, but just drawing the triangles on here just didn't seem like it stood out very well, especially compared to all of the pattern and color that I had previously put on this page. And so then I put lines on the triangles, and that still didn't seem like it was standing out good enough, or very well. So you'll see here where I decided to go through and, like every other line, fill in the line, just to kind of make that pattern stand out better. And then of course traced around the quotes on this particular page with the orange Posca pen. So yeah, here I just decided I was going to go through and every other line kind of fill it in to make that stand out better on the edge. And here you see I'm finishing that up on this particular page. But yeah, like I said, I really like the way these pages turned out. It was a lot of fun to do. And this is like, what, 5 or 6 more pages in my journal page. These pages were done in my new Dilutions 8x8 journal that I got. I really am having a lot of fun with this journal. I like the size. It's a nice size, and I'm just, been really enjoying doing my art journal pages in this little journal here lately. So here, as you can see with the green, I was like, well, what's the next pattern? I guess I could do like boxes. And then I decided that I didn't want to fill in, like such big boxes. So then I, cut all those in half and then filled in every other one. So that, turned out more like a checkered pattern. But yeah, if you like to see, if you like this video, you can hit the like button, or you could subscribe to my channel to see more videos when they come out. I try to put a video out every Tuesday. I am not affiliated. I just like to say with any products, there's just certain products that I like to use, so I mention them just so that you know what I'm using. But I'm definitely not affiliated with any of these products. And so here I'm just giving it a quick blast, and then doing some more outlining of the quotes on the this last page. So that's pretty much the art journal pages that I created. I hope you guys liked the video, and you can certainly leave me a comment. I would love to hear from you, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.